Hi, Democrats. Today is Tuesday, August 1st, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. I got a lot to talk about, not necessarily connected, but I'm gonna wing it. Late last week, I mentioned that there was a Wallet Hub poll that went out, survey rather, that went out regarding public school rankings, and that Oklahoma was ranked number 50 out of 51. Oklahoma's public schools ranking, we're ranked number 50 out of 51. And that's Wallet Hub if you want to go back and look at it. So I got to thinking about what made me think about this is that the superintendent of public instruction is on this tear that he is not going to accredit Tulsa public schools. He's going to push their accreditation to a point where he doesn't accredit them. Here's the challenge with that. Tulsa Public School is the largest public school district in the state. It is the largest public school district in the state. And since it's the largest, there's a chance that it's the most diverse. There's a chance that it's the most diverse, not just by race and religion, but also socioeconomic. If that school doesn't get accredited, they risk not getting federal dollars. They risk students who graduate from unaccredited schools having difficulty getting into universities. And if you were a business thinking about moving to Oklahoma and you heard that the largest school district in the state is not accredited, wouldn't you be a little bit afraid that there wouldn't be a place for your kids to go, and there wouldn't be a place for you to hire people from? But that's what we're setting up because he has this vendetta. I don't even know if it's a vendetta. There's a little bit of a vendetta between, and I'm not going to try to explain it or even try to understand it because you're an elected official, sir. Do the job that you were elected to do. So that's what's going on. I believe that Tulsa Public Schools is the largest school district in the state, and that our superintendent of public instruction wants to be on TV. He wants to be invited and flown all over the place to give talks. And but by attacking the largest target, that's how you get the most coverage. And what we have to do is we have to acknowledge it and we have to stop it. We have to make sure that everybody we know knows that the superintendent of public instruction is derelict in his duties of his job. He is not doing the job that he's supposed to do. He is not an expert who should be flown all over the country to give speeches, unless those speeches are how you can pretend like you have a job of importance, how you can pretend like you're doing the job that you were elected to do without actually doing it. So what do we know? Close to half of the folks who were employed by the Oklahoma State Department of Education when he got there have either quit or been fired because he's created a hostile work environment. That's what we know. The largest public school district in the state, he's threatening their accreditation. That's what we know. He's showing up in different places, championing those who make people uncomfortable, observing their specific religious practices. He's there to support folks who are making people uncomfortable. That's what we know. He is waging a very public war against decency, against teaching full history. Full history is not always comfortable, but he's waging a war directly against teaching authentic full history in Oklahoma public schools. And I'm going to keep saying the word public because I want to remind people that he's the superintendent of public instruction. And I say that the school voucher program that got shifted to being a school tax credit, which means that if you choose to take your kids out of public school and send them to private or charter because you want the state to help you pay for it, you have to be able to afford to pay for it up front. Tuition, uniforms, books, transportation, and any of the other stuff. You have to be able to pay for all of that up front, hang on to your receipts, and then get the money back on your taxes. Now, that sounds daunting to me, but then here's the extra wrinkle. As of yesterday, close of business yesterday, they still hadn't published the rules. They still are saying we'll have the rules out soon. Well, parents should be making choices right now, or should have made the choice of where they're sending their school. And so if you're sending your kids to school banking on the school tax credit, it's a gamble because it hasn't been defined as to how that's going to work. Because we did a ready, fire, aim approach to paying for private schools with public dollars. And all the while, the superintendent of public instruction is smiling with a hate group, showing up and being a guest speaker at a hate group's conference. That's what we have. Our superintendent of public instruction is very publicly aligned with a hate group. And I don't mean just that he pays his membership or he has some kind of free membership. Because I guess what people do on their own time is what they do on their own time. But he is flying on Oklahoma State time. I'm assuming and hoping that the hate group is paying his way. But he's flying on Oklahoma time to go speak in front of a hate group. That's what's happening. And he's holding Tulsa Public Schools hostage. What happened to teachers? What happened to parents' choice? Is it really parents' choice if you reduce their choices down to where they don't have a choice? And what happens if they're not accredited? So do all of the students, if they live in the north part of Oklahoma, of Tulsa Public Schools, do they end up in Skiatook Public Schools and Owasso Public Schools? If they're in the south, at Jinx Public Schools and Broken Arrow Public Schools, is that what happens? I would like to know what Jinx and Broken Arrow and Skiatook and Owasso, I'd like to hear what their plan is to absorb the students that they're going to have to absorb because there won't be an accredited Tulsa public school. It's scary, and there are far-reaching implications beyond a car video, beyond being able to call a press conference in the grass that he's not thinking about. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about him anymore because that's exhausting. But I am going to move on to somebody just as exhausting. The governor of Oklahoma had a little press conference today where he signed the Women's Bill of Rights, which is a piece of legislation that seeks to invalidate transgender people, most importantly, transgendered women and girls. It's choosing to invalidate the mere existence of people. It's not a women's Bill of Rights. That sounds good. That sounds like something that I would be for, but it's not, because it seeks to alienate and invalidate real people who exist in our state. The question is why? There is no real reason except hate. As long as we can keep dividing people, as long as we can keep separating people, then it keeps some people afraid, and that's what drives them to the polls. I've been saying it for a year. Democrats hope to inspire you to the polls because we're passing good legislation like the president, lowering and capping insulin prices, expanding broadband access. We want to inspire you. We want to inspire you. We don't want to scare you. We don't want to scare you about some mythical, magical thing that's going to happen that they've made up, that hasn't happened, isn't going to happen, that they've made up. And that's what they're doing. They're creating a boogeyman for you to be afraid of so they can tell you that they have a solution. This Women's Bill of Rights is not a solution to anything. It's not. But instead of just signing the legislation, which was horrible, and moving on, he had to have a whole press conference where he had a whole bunch of pretty women standing around him so he could pretend like they validate that nonsense and that nonsense is okay. It's depressing and it's sad, but that's where we are. This is why we have to be involved. This is why you need to find your county party and figure out how you can volunteer. We need to mobilize, we need to organize, we need to strategize so that our message of helping people gets out there. Our message of lifting people up gets out there. There's a huge layer of hate that's out there, and we've got to combat it. So if you're thinking about getting involved in your county party, go out to okdemocrats.org, click on Our Party, click on Find My County Party. You'll send an email and it'll go directly to your county chair, and they'll reach out to you and tell you how you can get involved. If you do not have the capacity to show up for your county party, but you want to make a difference, consider donating. And that's okdemocrats.org/donate. Because in places where we don't have enough people, we're going to have to spend money to reach them. We're going to spend money to send texts and postcards. That costs money, and that's what we're going to have to do. We've got to combat this nonsense. Not accrediting the largest school district. Totally ignoring that the Oklahoma City Public School District ranks lower than Tulsa Public Schools. It's not about what kind of education kids are getting. It's about culture wars and how much news he can get. We've got to combat that. Invalidating the existence of human beings, we've got to combat that. Help us. That's okdemocrats.org/donate. In the meantime, as you think about that, come back and join me tomorrow at 4:15. I'll be right here.